You're planning your wedding and you're trying to decide what vendors to work with? Confused? Let me see how I can help. Hi, I'm Jack with Vacationese, and do me a favor, if you don't mind, subscribe to the channel. I end up posting new videos every Tuesday, and it's all about destination weddings. So you've made the decision, you're having a destination wedding, you've picked the resort, and now it's time you're working with the planner at the resort to start customizing your wedding, picking your menus, picking your decor, talking about DJs, photography, and vendors. So people ask me, what's the best way to deal with the vendors? So there's really three ways with resorts with vendors. You have the vendors that the resorts have in-house, which is what most of the resorts want you to use right now, or you can look at using outside vendors. So let's look at the in-house vendors. So most resorts for decor, you really don't have a choice. If you're going to get nicer tables and linens and tablecloths and food, you really need to work with the resorts directly, because you're not going to find an outside vendor that's going to bring the chairs or a dance floor or things like that. Where we start looking at outside vendors for clients is DJs, photography, sometimes flowers, sometimes hair and makeup. But let me explain to you your options with outside vendors. So you have two options. Some resorts may have approved outside vendors that they work with. We see this in Jamaica, in Mexico, Punta Cana, deeper in the Caribbean, St. Lucia, but every resort is going to have their own policy related to dealing with outside vendors. So if you find someone on Instagram that you fall in love with, a photographer, whatever it may be, a DJ, you want to talk with the resort about what is their policy related to local outside vendors, local meaning in that destination. In some cases, they may tell you, yes, we can work with that vendor, and in other cases, they may say no. I would highly suggest if they say no, you ask why, because they may know that vendor is not reputable. Over the years, we have heard from people that have found vendors online, their prices are half the price of the resort, they select them, they want 50% or 100% payment up front, and we had a wedding not too long ago, right before COVID, that the vendor did not show at the dance floor, and it was a DJ. So if the resort says no, again, I would suggest no means no, but ask them why. They know the reality of some of these vendors in the area. We also had a client that worked with a vendor that was told that after the vendor left, they did $5,000 worth of damage to a ceiling in a ballroom, and the vendor skipped out in paying those charges, and it caused some issues. So now let's look at your other way of finding vendors, bringing vendors from home. Now, if you want to bring vendors from home, look, I think it's a great idea, but you're now going to incur a cost, which is they've got to get to the destination. So are you paying for their room? Are you paying for their flights? Probably. But in some cases, we've seen clients say, look, I found a photographer who said if I'm giving them a free vacation, they'll charge me a really low price. That's great. You still need to work with the hotel to find out what their policy is on bringing local outside vendors. In some cases, resorts will say to us and you, as long as that vendor is on the guest list of your travel professional as a guest staying at least 3 nights, there's no vendor fees. Some resorts, I just heard actually this morning, a resort say, look, we still charge a $500 vendor fee for an outside vendor, and they need to produce a certificate of insurance valid in Mexico. I don't know how easy that is. I don't know if a photographer working in the United States has insurance that's valid in Mexico. So you want to make sure you address these issues with your outside vendors before you get involved in signing contracts with them. The other thing, whether it's an outside vendor from the United States or an outside vendor from that locale, again, you want to address what is the outside vendor fee. Is it per day? Is it per event? Is it per person? And how does it work? In some cases, I've said to people, look, if you're doing hair and makeup, maybe just buy a day pass and not an outside vendor fee. So tell the resort that that person is a guest, a friend who lives in Jamaica or Mexico, wherever it is, and let them come in as a guest. and do your hair and makeup in your room. They're not going to give you access to the spa either way, but maybe that'll help save you some money. So there's different strategies we've used over the years for outside vendors. Again, it's a hot subject now, I guess, because what people are finding is sometimes they find vendors online they like, or certain vendors the resorts have are more expensive than other people. But at the end of the day, sometimes the resorts have promotions going on that may reduce the cost of the vendors through free nights or free, decor credits. So you really need to look at the big picture. I think the value we as your travel partner or whoever you may be working with, that hopefully they have experience at that resort, and you can ask them alternative ways they've worked with outside vendors in the past at that resort. And I think when you talk to your travel professional up front, ask them, have you worked at that resort up front? Because I would highly suggest that if you're picking someone you're going to work with to help you plan a destination wedding, they have experience working with that company or that resort, so that at the end of the day they can be your advocate and be giving you advice not only in dealing with the travel, but overall any questions you may have about planning your destination wedding. So hopefully this video helps you understand the 3 or 4 different ways to deal with internal or external vendors and what may be best for you for your wedding. Thanks again for watching, and if you have any questions, feel free to post the comments there and I'll try to answer them.